Do the Quail Cove restroom down to 50.
Okay, another 46,000.
Do the, darn, all right. Go ahead and take off the obstacle course. As much as I like that. Where are we at now? I'm down.
26,000.
No, it's down to, I'm down to 946, right?
Yeah, you would have 26,500 more to cut.
I'm under 1 million. Isn't I supposed to be under 1 million?
920.
920, yeah. The
Oh, 920. I thought that note said 1 million.
Right here is the goal number.
Oh, okay. Okay, then drop down the community theater to the, whatever I need it to go under, to 20.
Oops. So 15,000 would take you close, within $1,500.
Make it 20. We'll go up a little bit more and take some more off at the top. Go up to the top.
So make community theater 20,000.
Yeah.
And then go up to the top. 6,524 is left.
Okay, keep going.
This is the top.
I guess the Matilda and the play on row 5. Take it down to 1,000. That should do it, right?
We would, if we took off 6,524, that should do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're balanced.
Okay.
It's stressful.
Yeah, no kidding.
Indeed.
We have Karen, Nan, and Laurel. Do I hear you there too?
Yep, I'm here.
And Dale, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. And how about Scott? Are you there with us yet? Or Nate? Okay, we'll wait on Scott and Nate. We still have 5 minutes. Hey Dale, on yours, when you're $50,000 short, do you know that? Or is that something you're waiting for? Or?
Oh, I thought we were down to 920.
Yeah, Camden says the number he adds up is 870, so I'm not sure where the other 50 is, but
Oh, maybe my adding machine's wrong, huh?
And
Well, let me work on that. If I got 50,000.
I can double check mine too. Let me pull it up.
Dale, can you see the spreadsheet that Camden's prepared?
I can, yes. I'm looking at it.
Okay, so that, yeah, so your number,
I think what I would do, I would add back I think it's 6,289 to the children's programming room. When they did their presentation, they wanted, 140 or something like that, but they said they could get by with 86,289. So that was the number I plugged in, and I took that 6,289 away because I thought I was too much. But let's see. Let me get my
Camden just didn't know if he missed a number that wasn't picked up. And if there's something in that list that doesn't look right, then you can tell us.
86 is what they have right now.
no.
No, it's
They don't
68 they
have
have
any-
right now.
They
Yeah,
have,
they have 68
they
right
have
now.
68, and in the presentation it showed they wanted 140, but then it said they could use this 86,289. So
I thought the presentation.
probably
I'd have to check.
probably what I would do. Let's see, 1, 2. Oh, something happened. I touched it. Yeah.
Oh,
87 to 89.
and that's they're exploring grants. They haven't actually approached anyone yet, but they're going to see if they can get other grants for specific amounts. Or maybe they have approached someone, but nothing's set for that yet. So that's
Yeah,
contingent.
well, that's why I used that number. So it should be 87 to 89 for that. Change that. Then let me see, 5, 10.
It's still 42,600.
Can you go to the arts area, go back so I can see the arts area?
Sure can.
Okay, let me see now.
And up here is where you can see what I took reduced based off what you put.
I would probably add 5,000 to the youth choir, to the Wasatch Winds, the Timpanogos Chorale, the AF Youth Theater, the AF Symphony. And
Let's see what that is. It's about, you still have another 7,600 you could add.
I got another 7,600. I'd probably add that to the administration.
I think they roll their administration up into the individual programs. You could add.
Well, line 27 is administration.
Oh,
That's a separate one, yeah.
oh, there it is. Yeah, sorry
It's
about that.
different.
Okay. You're right. My bad.
So I'd add it to this administration on here, TAF, cultural administration.
Okay, that's good. That balances it. Thanks, Dale.
Scott, are you with us?
Thank you.
I am, Brian.
Can you take 80,000 off of your number? Where would you put that from? We're going to 920.
You know, I was lucky to get it cut to $1 million today, so I haven't given it another thought.
I feel your pain.
Just
Yeah, I'll do.
just cut it out of TAF. It's not a problem. I don't know, Brian. I've got to give it some thought. Maybe it can develop through our discussion. I don't know. You know, an easy one would be the library thing, but I've tried to be a proponent there, so I was unsure about keeping all of that money there, but it feels like it's kind of all or nothing for that project.
Well, we'll go down that list. Is Nate with us?
It doesn't appear yet.
Clark's, we have Clark on, right, Clark?
Yes.
Clark is there. I think everybody's here but Nate. Nate sent his numbers in. I assume he's joining us. Nate, is that you?
Yeah.
No.
Who's number 9? Who are they?
Nate, did you join us?
It said he did.
He's putting his headphones in right now.
He's
Okay.
connecting. Who's the phone number?
That's Dale.
That's
1826.
Dale, yeah.
Who?
Dale.
Dale.
Dale's in
Somebody
twice.
calling me?
No,
No, we're just explaining. You're in here twice. You have the one call in through the video and one for the phone, so you can hear.
Yeah,
That's
my-
fine.
Nate, you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, we are all together. So it's 5:32, and Camden's prepared this list, and our target is to get down to $920,000. And so I think that the best use of our time, some of these are there's consensus already, and so we'll just kind of go down those very quickly and spend the bulk of our time on those where there's some need for discussion because of the variation in recommendations. But the first one, the 60-year celebration, that's a slam dunk. Everybody said the same thing, so that one doesn't require any discussion.
Excuse me, Camden, go back up to the top of the spreadsheet, please.
Line 3.
Yeah, he just did.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That one's okay. That one's a slam dunk, pretty much there. We'll skip down to the student dictionary. For the most part, they're asking everybody, we're about at that $3,200 mark. So that one's is pretty determined. The book fairy project, we have some variation in the amounts, and we come up to about 14.5 as the average. And so we have Dale and Scott, we're on lower end of that. And so Dale.
Let me just tell you why I'm on the lower end. That's the amount they asked for last year.
Okay.
So I was puzzled why they got went
Dale,
up so
here-
high this year.
Here's the reason. I can explain that. The books last year they were able to get for $1 a piece, and they also have added some additional schools that they're providing for, but they can no longer get the books for $1. The price has gone up.
Hmm. Well, one other thing I thought too, they're mostly business people that are in that Rotary Club. And so I wonder if maybe we ought to put a little pressure on them to donate some of their own funds to help with this project rather than relying totally on the city.
I think the Rotary Club already donates a lot to it.
They do.
Yeah, they're already donating.
Okay.
Brian, I can explain mine. I had full funding, their full $18,000 request there. And then just in trimming, I just, said a lot of people are going to have to scale back. Maybe they do, in this case, half as many books or something like that. But I didn't have anything against the project. I had it full before I had to cut back.
So right now, the average is 14.5 for the group. Do you want to go with an average for now?
Let's go with the average for
Good.
now and see
Yeah.
what comes out at.
Okay, the next one is the quilting equipment grant. They asked for a lot, including that large machine. And here we have a few that have given a partial amount for maybe a few sewing machines, but right now we have a few. We've got Nate and Laurel that did not fund any equipment at all. And then the rest of us were on a smaller scale. So Nate and Laurel, you want to speak to that? What your thoughts were there?
I just didn't fund it because I felt like we're short on money, and I just didn't know if that was a higher priority than some of the other things. I have no problem with putting funding into it. I just saw that maybe the money could go better elsewhere.
Okay.
I'm the same vote. I wanted to fund it fully, but given our parameters this year, I decided to put the money elsewhere. But I love the idea. I love the group.
Because right now, $2,800 would fund, what, 4 or 5 sewing machines, and that's about it?
Can we up it to maybe 3,000?
See, I put in
That
a
would give them
number.
5 sewing machines, 4 or 5 new sewing machines.
I put in for 2 sewing machines and then tried to support their event, but I don't know that we can go more than, what's the
I just
average
meant as
on
the
that?
average, a little bit more so that they can at least purchase at least 3 or 4 sewing machines.
I say 2 or 3 sewing machines. I don't know.
I'm with you, Karen.
What does a sewing machine cost?
I
$600.
feel that way too.
Leave it
Sewing
at the 28 for now. I mean, I'm
$600
talking average.
per sewing machine.
So right now, this is going to buy them 4.5 sewing machines.
Yeah.
That's plenty, I think, for now.
And then
Well, the
the
average is at 2,812, so maybe just leave it at that for now until we can go
Figure
through
out
the
where we
whole-
come out at.
Okay.
Yeah, and see what we come out with.
and the events were pretty close. We're about a $2,000 average almost, and they wanted $2,185. So we're pretty close there. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that warrants a lot of discussion. We can just go by that.
Are you willing to round up or down to a complete sewing machine?
Let's do that. If it's how much was it a piece? 600 and what?
$600 per sewing machine.
Let's
So if
go.
we did 2,400, that would be,
Let's do 24 to start with.
Okay.
And then on the quilt, on the grand, let's go to just 2,000, round it to 2,000.
Okay.
For the Fork Fest, we had, everybody had some contribution there. Dale did not. Dale, do you want to explain your thoughts
Yeah,
there?
I thought, that's such a big production and so many of the attendees, only about half of them come from Lehigh, American Fork, Pleasant Grove, Alpine, Highland. And I thought maybe it'd be better if the city hired the Fork Fest to do the Steel Days program that they always have, and have it on a Steel Days thing, let the city take that. And then I felt like those concerts in the park would, I originally put in for the 6 at the park, but then cut it back to half, or I guess 3, yeah, 3, I think is the 8,500. I figured that would be maybe a better way to do it. The Chalk Fest I cut back because it, that's what they had last year, was about 4,500, and they were expanding that. So that
I
was
left
my
the
thinking.
Fork Fest at the top because that was their first priority, and the concerts in the park was 4th priority for them, and they were only doing it because the city wanted them to do it. So I felt better about putting the money into Fork Fest because that was their baby. And the concerts in the park, I didn't put any money in because I thought it was 4th on their list. And maybe the city was supposed to be partnering with them, but all they were offering was the venue. But I thought maybe the city needs to do more.
That could be. I had some notes that they said that we didn't do that last year because the chamber was involved with them and was going to work with them on it. So I have no objection to shifting that up to the Fork Fest.
My question is the city going to do the concerts in the park if this isn't funded?
They might not, but maybe we have enough concerts with Steel Days and Fork Fest and I know that
just so everyone has a little clarity, the city does not run the Steel Days program. That is the chamber. The city has a contract with the chamber, so the chamber can make money off of that program. So Fork Fest will not displace, or Harrington will not be asked to run that. So that's not even a possibility. The concerts in the park are kind of up in the air currently. So
the concerts in the park, I think, Karen, draw a different clientele than Fork Fest will.
They do.
Well, I agree that they do. And I do think it gives the chance for like the symphony and whatever to participate. But I just didn't have enough money to do both. And for them, looking at what Harrington was asking, concert in the park was 4th in their priorities. So
yeah, I just wonder if it's 4th in priority for the city.
I don't know, because I didn't see the city offering to put much into it except for the venue.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm talking about the city as far as the patrons, not necessarily the city council.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I think it's a high priority on this for the city for concerts in the park. And I think Fork Fest comes in second for the city, people from the city attending. Everybody goes to the concerts in the park. A lot of people do because they're used to it being there. If we don't fund a little bit for it, that's going to fall through the cracks and it's not going to happen again next year.
That's what I worry about.
I was going to fund a little bit for there, but I ran out of money, so I didn't. But if you can figure out how to put it in, I'm good.
Well, we are looking at the amount of money we have right now, but we still have another, 3 months before this is final?
Yeah.
The council could come in the 1st of June and say, look at what we've got now. We can add in more. We can up our, we're going to have higher sales tax.
They might, but we don't know that.
But the question is,
it's not going to go down.
If they don't, what do we want to make a priority?
Right.
So I see that some people have put in 25,000 for Fork Fest, and I did the full amount, but I'm good to take off 5,000 and put it in towards 2 concerts in the park, maybe, because each concert is 2,700. So if you took off a little bit off Fork Fest and made enough for 2 concerts in the park plus Fork Fest, I would be okay with that.
Would that be $25,000 in Fork Fest, you're saying, and then another?
Yeah.
And then
And then
5,000,
still make a couple of for the concerts in the park.
5,500 in the concerts in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
For
Is everybody okay with that as an initial?
I'm okay
the
with that.
concerts in the park?
So 2 concerts for 5,500, then 25,000 for Fork Fest.
Got it.
That
Yeah.
works
Right.
for me.
Okay?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do for Chalk It Up?
Well,
So
no, we haven't-
chalk it up.
We haven't
The
talked
wall-
about that one
walls-
yet.
Yeah.
Walls, nothing. So the walls, it was unanimous, nothing there. We didn't fund them last year. Chalk It Up, the average is about 5,000. So we might
Yeah.
just stick $5,000 as an app, use that for the Chalk It
I'm
Up.
good with that.
Concerts in the park, we talked about that already. The immersive dance performance, everybody, I think except for Scott, had some level of funding there. Scott, do you want to address that?
Yeah, and I don't know that I had super strong feelings there, but let me just go to my note here.
While you're going to your notes, Scott, I'm going to say something for it. Of all the arts things that we have here, we have nothing for dance. And we have a lot of people in the community involved with dance. And so I think that could be something valuable. It's something new, it's innovative, and it's kind of, I don't know, I just think it would be nice to have something. If we're looking at the arts, dance is a serious part of the arts.
And I loved
uh,
what they were doing. I loved the creativity of what they were doing.
I agree with Laurel, what she just said. I think it's a marvelous idea.
And
And
Yeah,
the
I
group
liked
was
it too.
Sitting at
motivated.
Harrington, not at Harrington, but over at the Hampton Place, which is
Mhm.
hurting for funding, isn't it? So
It is, they could use the money.
I
Right.
really think it's a marvelous thing. So
I wouldn't fall on my sword over this one, but my note was, to me, it's a I think Orem based dance company. Most of the participants may or may not even be from our area here. They come and put on a performance here, but I just wasn't as convinced that it felt as local to me. But for $4,500, I could move some there from one of the other arts areas and not have a problem.
Scott, the people that are playing in the symphony, the Wasatch Band, the Wasatch Winds, and all of these other things that have sponsors, they're not all from American Fork either. They're from all over the
Organization.
county.
But the organization is an American Fork organization, part of TAF. That's the difference.
Right.
This is true, but I do think that this is a beginning. They're trying to provide something new and innovative and interesting for the American Fork public. And I just think it's worth the investment when it's not that much, money.
I think
it's
they're
worth the
trying to get their
investment, too.
feet. Yeah. I thought they were trying to get their feet into American Fork, and literally their feet, since they're dancers. But
Yes, there you go.
Very good. Kara,
no pun
very good.
intended.
So is the group looking to?
Are they
Go ahead, Dale.
are they a little bit like Timpanogos Orchestra? They come and do a program in American Fork. Is that kind of the way these people are? They're based in Orem, but they come and do a show in American Fork.
Yes.
It's a
With
teach
the
learning
funding.
thing as well, as I recall.
I think
Right.
don't they have 2 shows and they'll be doing their practicing that you can probably walk in while they're practicing too.
I thought there was some, yeah, and it's so interactive with the crowd, which would be probably American Fork residents, and
People.
it's totally interactive with them.
It's just something brand new that's coming in, and I think we need to help them out and bring it in.
So right now, the average is about $3,300. Are you looking to partially fund that, or do you want to go fully funding on that one?
Fully fund.
I would say fully fund too.
Oh,
I would say partial.
But a lot of that funding has to go to rent the Hamilton,
Right.
right? Yeah,
The Hampton Inn. Yeah.
yeah, the Hampton.
Northampton House. That's
Yeah,
it.
part of it goes to the rental on the Hampton House, and the Hampton House is already giving them a break on rental.
Right. That's right.
But they have to go to, or what, was it 3 or 4 times to do practicing?
Right.
Right. But they were getting them a good deal on the.
They were giving them a
Building.
really good deal, and if you want to just go 4,000, at least that's a partial. They can come up with the rest with tickets, I'm sure.
We can go 3,500 or 4,000. What's the consensus?
4.
I say 4,000.
4.
Okay, let's put 4 there for now.
Okay.
And then we'll skip to the other one where there's the History and Heritage Pageant. Everybody puts some level of funding there. We're pretty close. They want 58. The average is 44. Do you want to go to 45 on that one?
Where did we, oh, we jumped down? Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
Karen, tell us why you put that
I'm
one
way
so
low
low.
only because I was running out of money, and I'm happy to go. I think we're going to come out too high, but I could go more. I only cut it. I had more and I cut it because I didn't have enough money.
Okay.
And
Is
then
this which one are we on? The Heritage?
Heritage, yes.
Pageant. Yeah.
where we have, there's some large holes there. I want to discuss that because it's a larger issue. So I want to go to the ones where we have pretty much consensus across the board. And the next one would be the Tim Corral.
So how much are we doing for the History and Heritage? 45?
45.
Whatever your average is.
So 45 rounds that up. And
Yeah.
then the Tim Corral, we go from 20 as a high to about 10,000 as a low. And I'm the low. I think with that, what I did, I compared the level of expense to the level of revenue they generate. And they were on the very low end of, they don't generate much ticket revenue, but they are cost intensive. And so those, I really penalized those that did not have a lot of gate receipts, and they were one of those. And so that's why I was lower, because I'm thinking, okay, if this is not coming close to paying for themselves, I mean, they're a long way from that. There needs to be some incentive for them to find some way to boost revenue or pare costs in that. So that's why I was low on my end.
I was a little lower than everybody too, and I felt sort of the same way. Actually, I went a little more than you did, Brian, but I kind of had the same feelings as you.
So we're at 16.8 or a minute. That 16.8 is the average. Do you want to use that?
Yes,
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
16.8?
That's more than I would have given them, but that's okay.
Are you just going to go 16 or 16.8?
16.8.
I don't know. That's it. They
Let's
typed
go
in.
16, not 16.
Just go 16.
And 16 there.
Yeah.
And then the next one for the youth theater, there we have, it's a little tight spread there. We go from a high of 20 to a low of 15. So there's not much difference there. 18,000 may be a good place to call that.
Right.
Okay.
18,000 with that group. Then let's hop down to the children's programming room. This is where we go from a low of 75 to a high of 140. So Scott, you're the high. If you want to speak to that, you and Laurel are high, and then Nan, you want to speak to the low.
Well, you made me go down. I didn't want to go down, but I had to keep dropping it lower. So
The higher, so maybe Laurel and Scott, if you want to talk to the high, Nan may be part of that. And
I
Dale-
went with that because I felt like we kind of made a little bit of a commitment last year in our giving them the other money, and I just felt like we kind of had some sort of an agreement of sorts in our thinking last year.
And I agree. I want to see this go forward. I really
do
like
too.
this project.
I love to see it go forward. I mean, I work there, and I would love to see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a marvelous plan that they have, that they're thinking of doing, and I would love to see it happen. And I actually had 140 in there, so to start with.
That building is very much one of the showpieces of the city.
I agree.
Yes.
It needs to, and you know, this is just, I'm only here as an opinion, but that the enhancements to the library are only going to pay dividends for us in the future.
I totally agree.
I agree.
Well, and the thing is there's a majority of the community that uses it.
Yes.
Well,
And
and
so-
even if there wasn't there, this could possibly enhance that. And I don't know,
Right.
I was a city councilman when we built the library, and it was so controversial. And we put these areas in place so that in some future time we might be able to expand them and take advantage. And that's literally what we're trying to do. And that, that there's few buildings, particularly city-owned buildings, that have the virtue of that library. And I don't know, it would be money well spent, but that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
I agree
So-
with Clark. I think that we need to make this project happen, and I do agree with Laurel that we have an agreement of sorts. I had it fully funded until my third revision, so.
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
too.
me too.
Well, I
Well-
just didn't feel like you can maybe do a partial job here.
Right.
If we give them partial money, they have to cut the scope or delay it or come up with the other money elsewhere. And I kind of feel like if I could put $1 towards an arts facility or a culture facility versus an event, I'd put it towards a facility that's going to be there for 30 years and benefit, the children and that for a long time to come.
I
So
agree.
I
I
feel
agree.
like it's a long-term investment in something that'll be valued by our up and coming generation. And I would rather put the full money here, or, our average is 108. I would easily move 30,000 from a one-time event to an investment in the next 30 years of our rising generation. That's my thought on it.
Well said, Scott. I agree.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree.
It
So
sounds
let's
like,
go with what you've got for,
do you want to go with a full funding? Because right now we're at 109, but if suggested is fully funding and that's 140, then we'll have to make some choices elsewhere to make that possible. Do you want to put 140 in there for now?
let's see what
Yes.
happens.
You know,
I do.
Make
you know,
it one.
I agree with the library. I think it's a great facility and it needs to be used. But what really affected me is when they put this 87,289. I think they can raise some funding. I don't mind going a little higher than that 87,289, so that they wouldn't have a real big stretch to get additional funding. And so I would prefer not to fully fund it because of the dramatic cuts we're making in a lot of the other things.
Well,
So,
140 is
that's-
less than their 220.
Well,
But
that's
So we already gave them 68.
right.
right. We don't know exactly
So
what the
what-
final cost is going to be, but I can tell you Cassandra has already applied for different grants from different organizations here in the city already. And because of the virus that is going around, she's had to stop everything because she couldn't advertise out to find out what it's actually going to cost because she couldn't get an RFP out in time. But I know I've seen the plan, not the plans, but I know what they have in mind, and it's really going to make the library so much better and much more room. When those in the children's area is always packed full of kids. Every time they do their storytelling, there's like 30, 40 kids every time they do it. And it's needed over there. And I dropped it down because I was trying to get below the 920, but I'd be more than willing to either get it up to 100,000, maybe 120,000, and then make the adjustments after that. So,
Well, your average is 108. We could even go with that for now. And
What if we made it 110? Just to round it
110,
out.
yes.
110, yeah.
110.
Because to Dale's point,
That's what I'd
Yeah.
say 110. I can
Yeah.
guarantee you that they'll be able to fundraise the difference.
Right. You might be right.
it's 110 in there.
I would even consider donating some money to the difference.
You're a good guy, Dale.
30,000.
Dale, I'm going to tell Cassandra you volunteered to donate some money, so she's in good touch.
Recorded.
Okay, let's go with 110 for now.
110. And the Austin Playground, no one funded that one, so we can just cross that one off. We'll come back to Boat Harbor Art. The regional park at Art Dive, that's a given. We know what that is. The trail, no one funded the trail, so we can get rid of that one. The Wibbit obstacle course, Karen, you were the island in that one, so.
Yeah, I thought it was cool, and I thought it would be really useful to keep the pool going. But, if it's needed somewhere else, I I'm fine with it. I thought it was a neat idea and a great addition. It seems like a lot of work for the people there, but they were willing to do it. But to roll it up and take it down and whatever. But I liked the idea, so that's why I did it. But
You're not
I won't
offended?
have heartburn if we do
I-
something else.
I wanted to fund it. I just couldn't find the money.
I
My
wanted to
first
fund it too.
round- My first round, I had like half the money to do the climbing wall because I think that could be
Yeah.
something. But
Yeah.
deflating that thing and taking it in and out, they haven't thought that through. I think that's a bad idea.
I think it is.
Yeah, I agree.
I had the
I think
climbing
it's
wall.
kind
and
of
then-
crazy on
yeah.
how they're going to do it too. But
Well, isn't the climbing wall in there permanently or whatever?
It would
But
be.
it doesn't
taken
take
down.
up room, and that's why I had the climbing wall in there in my first round, and then I cut it second round just because trying to take a little bit from everywhere. But
you can take it off on mine. It's fine. I like the idea, but I did think the logistics of it right now is a little crazy, but
Okay, let's take that off. The remodel is not, we didn't
I'm
fund that.
fine. I'm fine to take it off.
The shade structure, Laurel, there again, you were,
No, I just put that in there because I'd like to see them finish what they started last year
Sure.
with it. And I also, I'm looking at it and going, okay, we're giving a boatload to parks, but we really aren't going to have much for recreation. And
But they've got 350,000 on our die every year, so.
right, that's the
But
park
that we have
aspect
to.
of it. That's the park aspect of it, but the recreation part, the actual part that people are using now is, there's not much there. But that was my reasoning.
So
I'm
you're
fine
okay
to
with-
take it off.
okay, let's take that off. The weight room expansion, Scott, you were the sole member that funded.
so Camden's now pasted in. I've been doing a little sidebarring here, and I sent him some new numbers, so I think that I've taken that off now.
Yeah.
The scoreboard replacement, that was a consensus except for Dale. Dale, do you want to explain your omission of the?
Yeah, I just thought, for example, the Quail Cove restroom and the scoreboard replacement, I thought those could wait another year. They do have a restroom up at Quail Hollow. It's up on the top. And I thought, they can get by another year. What I was concerned about, this coronavirus has really put a dent in our situation. So I thought some of these things we can put off for another year. I'm in favor of the projects, but I just thought timing wise with the coronavirus and everything I read, Trump's saying through April now, but from all I read about the experts, there's nobody knows how long this is going to last. So I think we've got to, pull on our horns now and just say, look, this year may be a tough year. Maybe we're going to have to cut some things out, and then next year we can revisit them. Another thought I've had too, if some of these things are really important, we could talk about doing what we did with Art Dye. Now, they're not big enough for a big bond, but banks do make municipal loans. For example, the city leases cars from banks. That's a municipal loan. And the interest rates are near zero now. And so that could be another option of getting some of these things, if we really want to do it, to talk with the city about maybe funding them over a 2 or 3 year period of time. That's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I'm hesitant to commit anything else long-term until our die's taken care of.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Yes, my
While we
thought.
have
Well,
that
this-
commitment
this-
to Art Dye, it's too much to commit to
Well, this
another
wouldn't
long
be-
term.
This wouldn't be long term. This would be intermediate term. Be 2 or
Let's get
2
Art
or
Dye
3
paid
years.
for.
There's an alternative perspective to Dale's point, and I can appreciate what he's saying. I also think that if we're living in concern of, how long is COVID going to be around and social distancing rules and group gathering rules, And, you know, frankly, a lot of people are saying this will likely be back in some form next winter as well. I'm wondering if we're committing a bunch of money to a bunch of group gatherings in you know, all of the arts events that may or may not even be able to happen. And so an alternative perspective is, let's put the money where we know we can use it this year while we're all stuck at home. Let's build some lasting projects and, you know, not overinvest in something that we're not even sure if it's going to be able to be held.
True.
Right, yeah, great point.
But by the same token, if they are able to be held, they're going to be needed as far as people.
And we were
you know,
still cutting
needing to get
about
out. And if they're
half.
not able to be held, then we can just count that as their money for next year.
Let's put 14,000 in the scoreboard replacement for now,
Okay.
and then nothing for Fox Hollow. We've omitted with Fox Hollow.
Yeah, I'm sad about that too. But
Okay, let's
I
let's go
think
back.
that with the scoreboard, I think Dale kind of has a point. There likely isn't going to be a baseball season this year.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's how.
Not out loud.
Sorry.
I apologize. That slipped out.
No, I mean, I'm just being realistic in the you know, the projection, but yeah, I don't know.
I think there'll be baseball. It'll just might get started later.
I think
Might
it'll just be
in
a short
June and
season.
July.
It'll just be
I
a short.
think they'll be going by July.
That's possibly true. I mean, I'm a big supporter of baseball. Don't think I'm not, Clark.
Oh, thank you, Laurel. A world without baseball is just not a world I want to belong in.
Well, yeah, and I'm sad that opening day didn't happen too. So just so you know, I love baseball.
So in the world of useless trivia, the last time we had no baseball in April was
Yes.
1898.
Really?
Just for the record.
Wow.
Really?
So Clark, just so you know, I was one of the first 3 girls to play Little League baseball in American Fork.
Way to
I got
beat
kicked.
Laurel.
I got kicked off the team halfway through the season because I was a girl.
Over in the National League?
It was over here on the west side of town, yeah.
In the National League in JC Ballpark.
Yep, that's where we were
Laurel,
playing.
You'd have never been kicked off of any league that I'd be on, I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you. It wasn't the league, it was the head of WBBA in American Fork that did it.
Western Boys Baseball. I remember those
Yep.
days.
Yep.
Tabby, let's go to
The thing with girls being able to play was going through the Supreme Court at the time. That ages me, doesn't it?
I'm right there with you, sister, so there's no worries.
All right.
wireless mics. And with that, we had 3 of us, Karen, Brian, and Nan, gave something to maybe, that may fund 2 mics is all. So on average, the average for everybody else basically pays for 1.
We're up at the wireless mics at the top.
Oh, we're back
I
at the
wanted
mics.
to fund
Okay.
it, but I just didn't think we could.
I did 2 mics. That's all I felt I could do.
And we can,
Is that what it is? Yeah.
I'm not married to the mics. I can take them out and we can make that 0 for now and use funding
I
elsewhere.
think 2 does them any good. I think you got to give them enough to actually make it useful, or make them wait till next year and just give them 0.
So Karen and Nan,
Well,
you
we
okay
gave them mics last year, so maybe we could wait until next year for them.
with a soundboard last year?
Yeah, we gave him the soundboard.
Just soundboard.
I
We
say
gave
0 and we
mics, yeah,
move
but
on.
the soundboard came with mics.
Let's make that 0 for now.
Okay.
And then Matilda and Christmas Carol, we've got a low, Scott, of 18 and then a high of 49, Dale. Oh, actually, the low, Nan's a low, 84. That was your plug figure, so you were higher before.
I
I don't-
personally felt like we needed to give them a little bit more because they're having to pay rent now.
And they should
But-
be able to do at least 1 production. So
This is the one where I was unclear when they said this is the amount with AF support and the amount without AF support. I took that to mean that they could cover all the expenses except $18,840. That was my math. And so that's why I put that amount, because they've been pretty self-sufficient, and maybe I misunderstood their application, but it looked to me like they covered all of it. besides that amount with their own fundraising and income, from different sources.
I didn't catch
They
that.
had 50,000 come in though for the year because they had the Valentine Theater and rented it out to other activities.
Right, which
So
they won't have.
that's why I jumped it up, is because I figured they lost that revenue.
Do you think though that they're going to be able to put on a production in the summertime, which would be Matilda? I mean, they can't get going yet. They're not going to be able to do it. Maybe the only one they're going to be able to do is the Christmas Carol in December.
I think that's right.
That could be.
But that's why I gave them 35, because they could do at least one production.
Yeah, they could get one production in, then I think trying to get something in July is not going to happen this year.
No,
but they might still try to do it in maybe September or something.
So with that money, do you want to give them 30,000 for that one production maybe?
I'd be good for that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
That's where I was, yeah.
Well, your average up here is 25, so.
Yeah, and we didn't give them the mics, and so this gives them a little more for the one production.
Right.
Okay.
Let's do 30.
You didn't ask
And
Nate
no
about
mics,
his
yeah.
zero.
About what?
You didn't ask Nate about his recommendation of 0.
Yeah, Nate.
Oh yeah, where's Nate?
Oh, sorry, Nate.
That's okay. I think it would be better served for our group if we just got through these. It's pretty self-evident if you look at my column where I think our interest should be this year.
The boat harbor.
It parlays into what Scott said and even what Dale said. So I'm just going to hold my comments until we get to that point and then defend my position aggressively.
That's fair.
Okay.
Literacy kits, where 25 is about the average.
And I didn't do any there. I thought we did them last year, and I thought maybe that's enough for this, just for another year anyway.
We gave them half of what they asked for last year.
Yeah,
Right.
but we did do some, so I don't know how many of them were used. I don't know how they've been used, but
They're in the process. They're very well used, so they will be. They will be.
well, I thought maybe waiting another year before we give them more, but
Should we go
If we're
partial?
going to do the children's room, we could probably hold off on those too.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So take away, make that 0.
yeah.
Okay. And then let's go down to the youth choir. The youth choir in Wasatch Twins. That's Nate's.
Maybe we need to talk about the boat harbor before we finish all of this.
Because the rest of us have funding in the TAF areas and Nate doesn't because of the boat harbor. So let's hop down to the boat harbor. Nate, the floor is yours.
Okay, so as I said, I think Scott and Dale made this point very well. Maybe not for this particular project, but in looking at the data and the work that Camden has put in and his team, we have an opportunity here that has not come along for a long time. So for an investment on our part, we have the opportunity to capture $1.4 million to put toward a lifetime project for the city. And I don't know the last time we had the opportunity for $1.4 million from Utah County. I don't know that we've ever had the opportunity for $1.4 million. But for us to grab that opportunity right now and create a lifelong project for the city, I think is outstanding, and we should do everything in our power to make it happen. Period.
I agree with Nate. You're not going to get, this is like he said, from the county, getting money from the county is really difficult. Really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And if we don't take this now and take that opportunity, it's never going to come back. They're not going to let us do it anymore. And fully agree that this is something we need to fund. I had 200,000. I think the city could come up with a little bit more in kind that could make up for that other 100,000. There is a trail project that they're dedicating 100,000 to cover a ditch. Well, put that 100,000 over as in kind for the boat harbor. But it's like I said, you're never going to get another chance from the county, and they're very stingy on handing money out.
Well, how long have we put money into that fund, and how much have we got out of that fund over the decades?
I can speak to that. So in my past role as a council, it was my responsibility to go to the county and get that money. We met, clear back when Melanie Marsh was with the city, and met with Larry Ellardson and a very much a good old boy network there. They wanted 2 full-size baseball fields from American Fork City as their stipulation. The important thing to note though is that in Utah County, American Fork is the second largest contributor to that tourism fund and the dollars that go towards that. We have contributed well over $750,000 or almost $750,000 every year since its inception. Now, obviously that's built up. They have been terrible about getting us money because we said we have no need for 2 full-size baseball parks. And so our requests were always turned down. Fortunately, we were able to get rid of, Larry retired, and while he was probably a very good individual, he did nothing to help our cause. Graves is gone, and we got Ainge and Ivy in there who took a look and said, this isn't the way this is going. This is not being handled correctly. And so when Camden and his team went back this time, we had a much more favorable listening ear. And by the way, the most we received, I believe, is maybe just over $15,000, and that was for the pavilion that went in at Evergreen Park from those funds. In the meantime, they've given millions of dollars to Thanksgiving Point and the museum and the convention center downtown, and they are leveraged pretty highly with that. For us to get a chance at $1.4 million is absolutely phenomenal from our team being able to go after that. We're taking advantage of multiple initiatives that the county has going on with Utah Lake, and this could mean a great deal to American Fork by being able to take advantage of these funds.
I had initially 100,000. My number looks weird only because I had to pull money out and that's what was left. But I did have 100,000, but I just think while we're doing art dye to take on another, that was committing $650 out of our 900 to 2 projects that were park and rec projects.
I did a little calculating, and those 2 projects alone, if we fund them fully, are 70% of our total funds.
Yeah,
and if we add the library room to that, that's 85% of our total funds. And I'm not sure
it's too much.
That's wise use of. I mean, I really like the boat harbor idea. I really do
too.
And I would love to do it. And I just don't know if we want to make that sacrifice to say, okay, 85% of our funding goes to those 3 projects and 15% will spread out with 1,000 here and 1,000 there.
That's how I felt about it. I just didn't see with the art dye thing going. And I'm just curious. I mean, I know it's hard to get money from the county, but how do we know that it's like right now or never? I'm just curious about that.
It's right now or
Let
never.
me ask you, I have a question. I think the 300,000 matching funds is a good thing, but I'm like you who've spoken about having 70 or 80 or 90% of our funds spent on those projects. I wonder if, and maybe this is a question for Clark, I would think this is such a good deal for the city that if the park tax can fund 100 or even 150, that the city would find the way to come up with the difference for that matching funds. Could you address that, Clark?
Well, Dale, you're very familiar with the budgeting process as you go through, and as been mentioned, there's a trail that people want to put in, and the city budget is stretched about as thin as it can be. With things going in like the new fire station, even though we're bonding for that, trying to take care of things in the south part of town, the budget is what it is, and pulling another $300,000 or $200,000 out of that is difficult. And it's literally, I mean, we are constantly under the gun for infrastructure and roads. And if you could see, and Dale, you of all people are very well aware, as we go for those MAG funds, as we go for those CDBG grant funds, so that when we replace a road, we can do infrastructure all the way up. We are trying to maximize literally every dollar that we can. And it's just being able to pull that for this is, I mean, we can go back and we can look and you know, we may have to try and take advantage, but you're also able to see from Camden's presentation the other grants that we're trying to take advantage of and get for that as well. So the city budget is always what it is. It is always stretched very thin, and we're trying to maximize those dollars. Every open dollar we have, it seems, goes to infrastructure and roads, because that's what the people are continually asking for. And so, you know, a $200,000 pull on the city budget is a significant pull, even on $68 million. So
could I add one thought real quick? Oh, sorry, Sherilyn. Go ahead, Sherilyn.
Oh, I was just going to say one other thing to keep in mind with trying to pull from the city budget is that the city is already scrambling to try to figure out how they're even going to meet the necessary obligations for next year with all of this COVID-19 impacting sales tax and whatnot. There's already going to be a pretty tight restriction on the budget for the next fiscal year. So the idea of pulling additional funds is only that much harder because of all of this.
Well, I think the PARC funds are in the same boat, and we've been cut on what we initially said too. Otherwise, we all probably would have put more money into that. But, you know, when you've got two big things going on, the Art Dye and Boat Harbor for a year like this year, it's a lot of money to put in and, you know, have to take away from all the other projects. I just think it's too much.
That's my feeling.
I would like to say,
sounds like, Clark, what you said sounds like things haven't changed since I was on the council.
No, they haven't. The city budget is it always feels like we're right up against it, but yeah. So.
And I think we feel the same way about the park budget. You know, we're scrambling how to, you know, provide these programs, and to put $650,000 into two projects that are Park and Rec right now is a lot to do.
I would like to speak to that point, Karen. I think for us to speak that Art Dye is taking too much of our budget, I would like to just gently remind the group that we've been waiting 30 years to complete that project. So,
and I'm all for it. I think it's great. And I'm not begrudging. I'm just saying the fact of the matter is it's still money, and to put $650,000 out of 900 into just those two projects is a lot. That's all I'm saying.
And it's well worth it. And I want to speak to the trail. One more point. The trail, the whole trail system, when you stop and consider it, when you have anchor points like the boat harbor, which will connect to a trail system around the lake, and we have the Murdoch Canal at the north and other points east and west, the trail system is very dear to my heart. And it pained me to not be able to put money in the trail system, because I've lived in places where trail systems are actively used and everybody uses them, and it becomes a draw to the community.
I agree on that.
I think and especially when you consider the south part of town, the connectivity to get to the train station, the boat harbor, the Utah Lake Trail, and all the way to Murdoch Canal should be a priority for us in the coming years. But again, I feel very strongly about the boat harbor to be an opportunity to grab the funds. And it just so happens that we have the opportunity to pay for Art Dye, which has been a long time coming. So I know that's a lot of money to 3 projects when you consider the library, the boat harbor, and Art Dye. Going back to what Scott said, if we have the opportunity for lifetime projects, I'll take that all day long and twice on Sunday over projects that are going to, or programs that are going to be for 1 year. That's my point.
Well, those programs aren't just for 1 year. They're ongoing every year, but it's not like they're only a 1-year program.
You don't have an opportunity every year to come up with $1.4 million of matching funds from the county to complete lifetime projects.
So Camden,
Let me say something. It sounds like we're in the same position as the city is. We got limited amount of money and we're challenged as to where to put it. Now, I don't begrudge the Art Dye PARC. In fact, I was the one that suggested that we bond for that and commit that to it every year till it was paid off, which I think is scheduled by the end of the period when park tax will have to be voted on again. Now, I want to mention too that we had a survey done on where people wanted their money spent. And the survey said 70% of it was parks and recreation. If you gave people $100, they'd spend 70 of it on parks and recreation and 30 of it on arts and culture. And I sent out with this sheet that I programmed the budget or the awards on, the sheet that showed if we did this. In fact, this sheet I sent out, I think it shows that, well, I can't find it really quick. I think it showed that about 54% of the budget that I funded would be for parks and recreation, and 45 or just about 46% would go for arts and culture, and the library was included in the arts and culture. So if we fund this as Nate aggressively proposes, then that throws that survey that the people have given us really out of whack. In fact, in that survey, it doesn't even mention the boat harbor. But trails are in there. Trails are pretty high in there. So I agree with you, Nate, on trails. And I think this is a good thing to do the boat harbor. It looks to me like it would bring more boaters from outside the area into American Fork. So from that standpoint, I think it's a good financial decision, but we can't afford to do it, in my opinion. And that's why I put 100,000 in there, and that was my max. And I didn't put anything else in the other recreation and parks areas.
Can we have Camden address the point, because I think it was said yesterday, but maybe you can reinforce this. If you didn't get the money or all of the money, you could still do some of the project, right? But you would have to scale it back somehow, cut some scope out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple different discussions we would have to have. First of all, I couldn't say for sure if we could find the money elsewhere, to Clark's point. I think at face value, if we don't get money, we would just not accept. We would just leave money on the table for either by the state or by the county. Alternatively, just what Scott you're saying is we would then look at the project and see if there's any other elements we could cut out. We would need to be careful and just make sure we're closely discussing that with the other funding sources, because when we apply for the county or for the state, we're packaging this, showing them what we're going to be accomplishing. And so to have to come back after they agree to fund any portion of it and say, we're not going to do these certain elements, could be an issue. with them.
So if you got even zero, let's just say if they got zero from Park, is that project dead in the water, no matching funds, or you still pull some of it together, you're just going to lose this 300 and 300 matching, so it's going to be 600,000 less of a project?
I couldn't say for sure which one of those it would be. It would be one of those. I'd then have to go to the city to have to see what we can do to get funding elsewhere. It may be just $600,000 less, and at that point, I'd have to go to the different other entities that are willing to fund it and talk to them about.
But the whole project's not dead in the water if you got zero.
Yeah, if other than the other complications of working with these other entities, we would just scale back the project to do what we can with the money we have.
Okay,
Here's something.
for now,
Okay.
can we put 100,000 in that recommendation column and then come back once we've gone through some of the other things? Because we could go up and down on this all day, but let's put 100,000 as a placeholder and then come back to see if that's defensible.
Brian, I was going to suggest we make another column where we fund that and then go through and make adjustments otherwise and see where we end up.
It's okay, either way.
Can I ask a question? On the bond that we have already for Art Dye, can you borrow against the bond that we've already paid off? You know, we paid so much money toward it. Could we borrow against the bond and get the 300,000 that we need and extend the bond for another year?
I think we can, but I would need someone smarter than me to answer that.
Yeah, that's what I'm just wondering, if that's possible, that if you had the bond and you could extend it for another year and collect another, what we've already paid, 300,000 that we paid on it. Can we do that?
I would
I'm not a
support
banker, so
that.
I don't know.
I definitely don't know.
I think that
But I do know that the bond payments that we have for our die right now extend beyond the current park tax program year by a year or two. And so it'd be adding yet a third year to that, in which case there's uncertainty if the program will be renewed. Obviously, we all hope it will be, but.
I thought that the bond was expiring the same time the program would have expired.
No, and Sherilyn or Clark may remember, it's a year or maybe two
At
after.
least a year past, yeah.
I think it's 2.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't be able to extend the bond for one more year just to,
Well, we could, sorry, I don't know if we can or
I mean,
not.
and
but
pay
if
it
we
off.
can, all we're
borrow
doing,
from the bond?
we're just increasing the city's exposure to have to pay that if the park tax doesn't get renewed.
Can we borrow the money
Let me-
from the bank and use the bond as collateral?
I don't know.
let me ask a question. How much longer do we have before the park tax expires and have to vote on it again?
8 years, and I think we are in is this our 5th?
5th year.
I think
Fifth
it's
year.
the 5th year.
Is it 2023?
Okay. Now,
2023.
if you did a bank municipal loan at 2.5% for 3 years for 200,000, payments would be about 72,000 a year. Now, I don't know if 2.5% would be the right number, but it's probably, that'd give you a yield of probably about 3.25%, which is pretty good for a short-term loan like that. So that's an option the city would have if we didn't fund the whole 300, if we just did 100. But I'd say, let's go on. We put 100 down there. Let's look at the other ones and let's see where we come out, and then we can address it.
Let's do that. Let's go to the benches, tables, and trees. I funded fully. Most did not fund at all. And I just like from the aesthetic standpoint, I love that, but that's something that's a nicety, and that could easily be chopped out. So I'm not married to that. I could easily zero that out as well.
It was low on their priority list as well, so.
Let's make that 0. That gives us freed up funds. So let's make that 0. The Quail Cove restroom was the other big ticket item. That was high on their list to finish, have a lower restroom. And we have 100,000 on the high end to 0 on the low end. So let's talk to that.
You want me to go first? I gave the high number.
Aye.
I just felt like it's an all or nothing. You can't build half a restroom, and so I think it's a good value. Meaning it's a valued item to the community. The amphitheater area there is highly used, and I think this would make it a lot better facility. With that said, I could be talked into saying, you know what, let's wait a year and do that later. I would move 100 of that to Boat Harbor pretty easily. I just don't. I think it's an all or nothing in my mind.
I kind of
agree
thought
with
it was
Dale.
too, and I only have less because I ran out of money. But I think it's useful. That gets used so much. And for older people or handicapped people, they can't get up to the other one that's up higher. If you're coming for a wedding or whatever, you need one down at the entrance down there lower, because a lot of people can't get up to where the other one is. And it's used a lot. So
Now, that would allow for no steps. It would be wheelchair accessible and everything. So it would be
it's difficult to get to for older people or handicapped people.
the money that we've been able to contribute to Quail Cove in the past and the upgrades to the parking lot and everything have made it a much more appealing venue, and and would, you know, we could experience some significant growth there and usage there. But you know, welcome to the city budget. I mean,
Right.
everything looks good and everything looks like it would be a benefit, but we just can't have everything. And so
The committee did have this lower priority than the Boat Harbor, so if they were choosing, they'd probably put it at
true.
the Boat Harbor, right?
Okay,
I
is there any,
agree. I think this is a great project. I think it just has to wait till next year.
Yeah.
okay, so is there any harbor if we zero this out and take that out?
And put the money
Yeah.
towards the boat harbor.
Just keep the money in the bank for now. We're not going to
Okay.
see where we can go. Let's
Okay.
go to the areas to find out what we have left over. Let's
Okay.
go up to some of the other TAF programs now. Let's start with the youth choirs. Right now, the average there is about a $20,000 spend. And we can put 20 in the recommendation column. And for Wasatch Winds, we can put a 23,000 there. These are going to be, we can see what we have at the end of the day. Put 23 there. The Kawakami, that's a $2,300 item there. The History and Heritage, we've talked about that one. The Vavacha Youth Orchestra, that's a $7,500 average there. Put that in. For the show band, that's a $16,000 area. For the symphony, you can put that at, say, 20. Put that at 20. Put that at 30,000. Nate's numbers.
Yeah.
Put that at $30,000 there. The community theater, put that at 40. Visual arts at 21. Admin at 47. And then the educational concert, you've got that at 5,600. So if you do those, what is your total?
Let me just mention something on that TSO. When we talked to them, they said they could do it for 4,000 and get the people that put it on to cut their take.
Let's put that on 4 then. Put that at 4 for TSO and see what that.
No, leave it at where it's at.
I think you got to leave it where it's at too.
I
That's
do
such
too.
a great educational thing. So great for Greenwood. And
Okay.
And a lot of that
Okay.
goes to people that are working and they're going to be taking time off to come and do this concert for these kids.
yeah, I don't want
think
to
you
cut
need to
them.
leave
Oh.
it there.
So right
I would
now,
be willing to drop the administration cost down on TAF.
Well, here's my question about the administration task on TAF. That administration cost is Reggie's salary, correct?
Makes a lot of money.
I think
So are we
most
gonna
of it
put
is.
him, well,
Yeah.
not all of it is, but are we gonna put him out of a job?
Well, I was going to ask him if he could file for unemployment.
Well, they have $120,000 or something dedicated to salary, so it's got to be more, help us more than Reggie's salary.
Yeah, it is.
I was confused about what that salary was, so.
Yeah, I mean, we pay a lot of money to directors. They take directors and instructors, and like Karen asked him yesterday, well, can't we have only 1 or 2 directors? Do we have to have an individual director for each program?
Well, you have specialists.
Well, I understand
be
that,
like-
but a
that'd be
director
like-
that directs a band is still the same that can direct an orchestra.
But that's like saying, let's let the baseball coach be the football coach too, because they're both sports.
Yeah, well, I know of a couple of them that do that, but that's beside the point. I mean, you can come up with 4 or 5 different directors, but every one of the programs have paid directors. I mean, do they have 9 different directors?
I'm just gonna, Nan, let me jump in here. And my opinion is always the unpopular one, but I don't mind being the unpopular one. I'm an advocate of the arts, but we consistently have asked for fundraising. We have consistently asked for accountability, and we get nothing every time. And I'm not saying anything ugly. I'm not saying anything out of school. Anyone who's been in those meetings knows exactly what I'm talking about. You can talk to the other members of the city council and leave me out of it if you believe that I am biased. But we have never got the accountability, nor have we got the skin in the game that has been talked about for any of these programs. So Reggie doesn't have to be out of a job because there's no administration salary or because the administration salary has been cut. But you look at the Alpine Community Theater and the number that they go and raise. I'll bet you that if they don't get money from PARC, they will somehow find those funds through raising it and going out and being aggressive and getting it. Again, this is not Clark Taylor. It happens to be Clark Taylor's opinion, but the cheese does not stand alone on this. You can talk to any member of the city council as we go over this, and it has never been delivered yet.
Nope.
And I do agree with you, Clark, that we've told them and we haven't seen it. But
yet we continue to give them more and more and more.
Right.
Rather
Well,
than
I don't think we're going to this year.
Rather than holding them to some accountability. And I'm for the arts too. I really am. But still, it's getting kind of, like you said, the community theater wanted $121,000. And the ACT people only wanted 90. I mean, can't you combine the 2 together and have one major theater group?
And we have asked for that multiple
PARC
times as well, Nan. We have asked for that multiple times as well.
Yeah, I mean,
pieces together, and there is no cooperation. You've seen Marissa and Spencer try to do that with the Harrington. The level of cooperation is just not there. And I don't completely understand it. I'm not driving that bus every day, but please just help me understand why that can't happen.
I agree. Why can't that happen?
I don't know why it doesn't happen, but I don't see the Sierra and the Hale and Orem joining together in force either. You know what I'm saying? But
they're a little bit different. I mean, the Hale is year-round. The Sierra summer programs and a movie theater type of thing. It's just a little bit different. We're talking over 5 plays during the year, at least 5 or more. Now you've got the 2 groups, the community theater, you've got ACT, and now you've got 5 plays between those 2. And then you've got the youth theater with another 2 or 3. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like an awful lot. And I know that, kids like to perform, but that's an awful lot. And like Karen and I were talking the other day, some of the bands and the orchestras, they're the same. Get together, stop doing all these individual things. Get together, and maybe you'll be able to come up with a little bit more funding for you.
Right now, our total is at 918 with as we've currently done it.
Can I make a comment on CAF?
Sure.
The feeling TAF had, and this goes way back to when Laurie England was a city employee and was running the arts programs. And then that when the city backed out of hiring a full-time director of the arts. I don't know whether that's what she was called, but then the Bartholomew lady took it over, and then she backed out, and Reggie came in and took it over on a part-time basis, and then he went full-time after that. And the idea, the understanding they had, and this goes back before Reggie, is that TAF was the city's arts program. And I've spent some time talking with Reggie about that, and I've said, this is different now. You're going to have to run this as an independent. You're not part of the city, and you're going to have to fundraise. If you look at each of the organizations and how much they raise in ticket sales, just an example, the Wasatch Show Band, I think they raise maybe a couple of $1,000s. I don't have them right before me in ticket sales, and yet we're giving them what, 15,000? And I've talked to Reggie and says that's got to change, and he's working on that, but you can't change it overnight. And so I think we've got to be a little bit more patient with them. And I think this major cut in their programs, they're getting half or less than half of what they've requested. And so that's going to put a lot more pressure on them to do fundraising and maybe raise their ticket sales prices. And I would like to make sure that we're not the responsible person for killing the programs. That's my piece.
And,
Thanks.
and when he presented this last time, he did show a movement toward that fundraising.
Yes.
He did a year ago as well.
Not in the same way, Clark. It was a different presentation, very much different when he presented to us for this, I thought.
Yeah, he recommended that they were going to do fundraising, but you know, we've heard that for how many years now?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I sent you a sheet along with, I think Brian forwarded it to you. It was my recommendations for funding, and I had the pages backwards, but the starting page, well, let's see, no, I think I sent a sheet to Brian. This has been a few days ago. It showed each of the organizations, TAF and the Heritage, or the Harrington people, all of those. It showed the number of participants. It showed the hours of volunteer work, and it showed the attendance. And I think there were, if I remember right, 32,000 some odd attendees, and there were 88,000 volunteer hours. And I sent that to all of you. So I think these are programs worth trying to save. And like I say, I'm doing everything I can to encourage Reggie to do fundraising, and I know he's working on it. So that's all I can tell you.
So we're back to the 9/18. So do we want to sit on this? We have a week to come up with our final recommendations. We want to think about where it currently is and take a break, and then just come back as we think next week about how to either if we want to fund the boat harbor more or not, where that comes from. But is now a good time to take a break and wait till next week to finalize this?
Camden, can you email
Send
this
this
to all of
us.
us?
Yeah, send us the average, what we just did tonight,
Just send us what this
Then-
sheet right here.
what our recommendation is, the blue one, yeah.
Yeah, send this, and so I can have the committee just go over this and do some
Look
what
at it again.
what it would look like, and
Yeah.
and let's just play with this again. And then our meeting next week, we'll go through and spend the time to finalize this.
That sounds good. I have a question. Brian, what day do we need to have this back to the city council?
Camden, we're pretty tight. Aren't we, like somewhere in the next week.
Yeah, let me pull up the calendar again just to make sure. So
when would we have to have this emailed to city council? That's what I need to know.
I love third female baseball player in it.
you'll,
Yeah, thanks, Clark.
What's that?
Actually, we were all three on the same team.
And Laurel, I would suggest you start writing now.
21st.
the 21st is the meeting. They normally, council needs the packet the weekends prior to that. And so if we could get it on the 16th,
Yeah, we'll be okay.
we
Okay.
can put it in the packet.
Let's do it.
She can't go anywhere anyway, so.
I was gonna say, you
All right,
can't go to Italy, so.
Not going
All her
to
trips
Texas,
are
not going to
canceled.
Italy. I'll be around.
Okay.
All
I
the
have
trips are canceled.
one quick point before we disembark here.
Sure.
We've talked in the past, a little bit last year, a little bit the year before, about possibilities of how to restructure or improve the structure in the agreements with the grant recipients, and to provide a little more accountability, or a lot more accountability and oversight when it comes to distribution of funds. And I would like to plant the idea in the group that we re-engage this discussion. I have some strong feelings about it, mostly related to projects or goals that were stated from our friends at TAF, and we have yet to see any fruit from those discussions for the last 3 years. And I love what they're doing. I love the participation. Dale, I was appreciative of the information of knowing how many man hours and volunteers and participants. But I think we have to be aware of, and let me just give an example. Like Nan, I've heard about fundraising efforts from TAF as being a full focus on the future, but I've yet to see any information come back from that. Number two, we funded a website for TAF. I don't even know if that website's done and how that has improved their ability, as promised, to improve their situation. So if we could save 10 minutes next time we meet about how we disperse the funds and more accountability, I think that would help the council. I think it would help us.
Yeah. Good points.
I have one more thought, and
Sure.
that is when we send out the amounts that we have, it talked about the reservation fund that we have. It's like $35,000 or something like that for administrative or whatever. Do we really need to save that this year? We've done our survey. Could we?
Yeah, there's no line for that. There's nothing. We just carved out that last year, but we've not carved that out, so that's not available. It's just the 920 is the full amount of the fund.
Okay, that's what okay. I was
Yeah,
hoping for that other money.
Yeah, there's 1.5% we could have pulled out any time to use for administrative expenses, but we've not done that this year and chose not to.
I think it would be helpful for next meeting too, or maybe even in between now and then, if the information's available, is what does 100,000, if that's where we ended up, is that feasible, or is it a deal killer or a major problem? Because I kind of feel like we don't know what 100,000 does for the boat harbor project, and I think it would help us to have a more information on that if possible.
Abby,
Okay.
can you do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with Scott about that.
Find out too, if we could pay the match in a 2-year time frame to the county.
Yeah.
Can we stretch it out for that?
Yeah, I think those regulations are going to be pretty clear cut, Camden. I think we could probably talk to them and see. I doubt we'll be able to extend it, but we should see.
So I'll look into that. And Clark, you're right. It's probably pretty definite, but if it's, if the deadline or the requirement to use within a certain amount of period is 18 months or something, maybe the timing would allow us to overlap both.
Yeah, 18 months would work, yeah.
Because then we could make that commitment and it would be okay.
I will look at that and see what options are.
And Kevin, send that to us before next Wednesday, if you could, as soon as you can.
Could I,
Excel file, and I'll look into those things and send that to you before next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
can I make one request before we conclude?
Yes.
some of you have said things about the TAP organization. You've been, I'm going to use the word critical. You may not have meant to be critical, but that's the way I've interpreted it. What I would like you to do, if you would send me an email and tell me specifically what suggestions you have that I can talk with TAF about and see if I can make sure that they're following up on the concerns you have. Maybe that's why I should use the word concerns instead of criticism. But I need to know specifically what your concerns are so I can address them with TAF.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think fundraising is one of those concerns. It seems
Karen,
specific fundraising efforts.
What I would,
Fundraising and accountability.
if you'll send me an email detailing if it's fundraising, say it. And then I've got it in writing. And then I can sit down with Reggie and say, here are the concerns. What are you doing about them? And then I'll be able to get back to you and I'll be able to say, here's what they're doing, or here's what they're not doing, and here's how I'm going to resolve it with them.
That's a fair point.
My goal is to help them succeed.
You're doing a great job, Dale.
Yes.
I appreciate all your efforts on that.
Dale, I just want to say they're absolutely lost without you. But
Yeah.
I would be absolutely blown away if Reggie did not know what we are asking for. He's been drilled by the city council on these things multiple times. There's just absolutely no question of this. And I don't know why you have to be the advocate, why they can't come and stand up. The last time they were confronted with these, there was personal attacks from them about the city dumping them, of which Heidi or Reggie had absolutely nothing to do with. Lori England was a great friend of mine from my years on the Arts Council. I was part of that when Lori had to be let go. There was just a divestiture of the arts from the city of American Forks, similar to the way it had been done with multiple cities. But those two grabbed that as a banner of we have been downtrodden, we're being treated poorly, which just absolutely is not the case. I'm tired of being the bad guy with TAF. They need to step up and do what we are requiring of everyone else. They are not, it is not a question to them of what they are not doing. It has been brought up and approached many times. Their presentations are always vastly different than everyone else. We didn't pull the numbers together. Now we don't have numbers for you. Dale, I love that you were there because without you, they would surely be gone. But they need to be able to stand up and say what they're doing to remedy the situations, talk to us about fundraising, and literally be a big boy adult organization who's been given over $750,000, far more than Lori England was ever given, and be able to say, this is what we've done with it. This is what's happening. I am frustrated beyond belief with this, that it always comes.
Well,
I apologize to
what I'm asking, Clark, if you'll email me and give me the list of things that you've required of them or you've told them so that I'm on the same page as you are, and then I can work on resolving the issue and getting them headed in the right direction. That's my desire. That's my goal.
Thank you, everyone,
Can you
for
do that
participating.
for me?
We'll do that. Thank you, everyone, for
Okay,
participating.
thanks.
Thank you so much,
Thank
and we
you.
will reconvene next week. Thank you.
Thanks all. I apologize.
You're good. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Have a good one all.
Yep, thanks.
Bye.